What's going on, everyone? We're going to do a special video today. We're going to do some tips and tricks after I failed that last video you guys saw. I actually went back and played several times and tried different play styles and everything like that to see what would end up working best. Um, in terms of either like placement or this and whatnot. And I mean, I did watch a couple of videos on like what the best thing to do with how to manage your time, resources, everything like that. And basically, after playing a couple rounds and finally beating that first scenario, I've come up with basically a couple different um, tips. I give them like basically 10 tips and tricks that will help you guys out in order to basically progress through the scenario the best that you can. Um, some things you guys might already know that's pretty basic and whatnot. I try to basically come up with things that like I didn't know right off the bat, and that I should have looked into maybe a little bit more. But it's new to the game. I just want to play it fresh without knowing much of anything. Even though I did watch a guy play, but I mean, I don't know if he knew exactly what he was doing for his first time or not, but like I didn't get the feeling that he knew too much. He was just playing, like I was, which I thought was great because it just shows the complexity of the game and how easy it is to actually just to screw up. So all right, I got a little PowerPoint presentation. Let's switch over to that. So here we go. Clip 203 gaming tips and tricks. So all right. All right, so the first tip I got for you is gathering posts. Gathering posts are huge. They're great in the early game. What I was doing before was I was basically putting just general workers and engineers on like the coal pile, steel pile, wood crate pile, and have them work just like that. Um, it I realized after the fact I'm like, you know what? If I put a gathering post after watching somebody else play, gathering post is huge because then what I can do is I can set the post there, and that will gather the resources um, in range. So when you place an area where there's multiple resources, so you may have like two coal piles, or you may have coal pile, or wood crate, or even maybe like a steel pile all next to each other, which is pretty rare. But you basically put those people in the gathering house, and they'll gather those resources instead of you constantly monitoring the top left. Resources been depleted, and go and taking those people and move them to the next pile and stuff like that. Um, it's just more efficient this way. Their gathering post can be dismantled. You'll get some wood back. I think it's like 15. I don't remember exactly what it is. I want to say it's 15. Let's call it 15. And you get 15 wood back for dismantling, and you go set up that gathering post somewhere else, which is great. It doesn't really cost much or anything like that. You can actually dismantle the road too. I think you get stuff back for the road. I haven't looked into that. I don't really dismantle roads. I just build along them. The other thing is that it keeps your workers warm. So early game, this is huge because one thing I noticed was that I was getting people sick very early because they're out in negative 20 degrees Celsius weather, gathering resources, from those resources directly back to the main hub or the main resource depot or stockpile. So that is pretty good. You can use automatons. I will get into automatons a little bit later, but they're really awesome, and I'll tell you why in one of the other tips. Second tip is the workshop. Pretty much you want to build that right off the bat. You got enough material to build a resource or a workshop right off the bat. At least build one, and then have your guys go out and gather with gathering posts. But you want to get the workshop so you can get a beacon up as soon as possible. The beak, what you call, because you can, unlock your tech tree. Tech tree is your pretty much your lifeblood. One of the two lifebloods I think are in the game. You build the beacon, which allows you to get scouts, which I'll touch on a little bit more, and you build, all these different things. You can, upgrades for like heat, food, resources, and like, food. Yeah, heat, resources, food, and there's one other, and basically like scouts and stuff like that, and like the whole tech tree with that. So that is pretty big to get a workshop right off the bat and start going. As you get resources, early game resources are going to be tight, but you basically want to focus all of your wood and your steel on your workshop to get those unlocks, which are going to help you early, mid, and late game. Late game, you'll be at that point. You bring in so many resources, it doesn't even make a difference. You're just going. You can just keep going, not have to worry about anything. You'll have so much; it's going to be pennies, on the dollar at that point. So early game, tip number 3 here: wood gathering. Wood gathering is huge early game. You need wood for everything. Actually, throughout the whole game, you need wood. But like to unlock a lot of the stuff here, which you'll see in the next slide, with the tech tree, everything requires wood, minimally wood, to upgrade. Um, start with a sawmill as soon as possible, just to get just to get resources going. It's better than just collecting the wood crates, and you're going to run out of wood crates very quickly. Um, just gather. I would say all the little piles on the ground, which goes back to gathering post. Also, you want to gather whatever you can that's on the ground as quickly as possible because that gives you a really quick. It's easy to gather those things rather than have to build bigger buildings and stuff like that. But you do profit more in the end, but it costs you more up front. So just get all those piles that are on the ground, gathering posts next to them, just collect everything, collect it. Um, so, like I said, start with the sawmill. So, one thing I noticed was that like the sawmill was good early game. Like I was able to get some and everything like that. But then I started using the wall drill and then the steam wall drill, which you'll see in the tech tree in a second. But um, you the wall drill is just I feel OP. It's you get so much out of it, and it's pretty much an endless resource at that point because you're drilling into the wall and pulling resources out that way. Um, I found that early game I had a problem with wood, keeping on top of it. But once you can unlock the wall drill and like that, you can get so much wood out of it. I actually had points where I had way too much wood, and I couldn't stockpile it. And even with putting resource depots in it, but the things that cost resources in early game, that's hard to spare. You got to manage your resources, which I'll also touch a little bit later. So tip number 4 is the technology tree. You want to make sure you take a look at all the technology tree as early as you can. Just take a look and see. A lot of the stuff you'll see, like here and everything like that. You'll see the stuff grayed out, but you can at least get an idea of what it does. So talking with gathering resources in terms of um, what was it with like wood and stuff like that. So start with a sawmill. Yeah, you can do a steam sawmill, but I will tell you right now, hands down, going for the wall drill, you get a lot more wood out of it, and you don't have to use as much of a building. With a sawmill, you're relying on all the resources that are around the outside, all the frozen trees and everything like that. Um, I get to a point where I realize I'm like, you know what? I can just go and only use. I actually had a point where I think where it's a single wall drill, and I think I got down to the advanced wall drill, and that fed and stockpiled my resource depots pretty damn well. Um, but yeah, so you got you got some good stuff going on here. But yeah, charcoal kiln. That's pretty much gonna be for me. It was late game, definitely late game. It was I needed to convert. I had so much wood at that point that I needed to stockpile coal, and so I was just needed a way to burn coal, burn wood into coal and make charcoal, which made it coal, and and that really helped out at the end. I'm not going to spoil the surprise at the end for you guys, but trust me, you're gonna need all the coal you pretty much can get, and then you'll still need wood too. But the charcoal kiln doesn't doesn't do as much as you would think it does. It does use up quite a bit. I think I want to say initially it's like 70 wood a day, so it's not a lot, but you get like a fair amount of coal out of it, but nothing too crazy. All right, so tip number 5 is heating. Heating, I played a couple different ways to see what would work, what didn't work. I found that steam hubs are the way to go. They're fairly inexpensive to build, and you can do quite a bit with them. In terms of heating, once you start getting outside that center ring, and I actually found that when you got to like a fairly chilly point, that like inner ring, like that first layer of like homes you might put and everything like that, that got pretty cold still. Even key with the stock, like range and output. So I recommend you guys build steam hubs. Let them overlap a little bit, and to heat the homes. The tech tree for that, I'll show you in the next slide I got, but I'll go over that in a second. But um, upgrading generators versus steam hub. So they kind of go semi hand in hand. So the steam hubs use the heat generated from the main core generator, and so if you have like one level of heat for like range and whatnot, that steam hub's only getting like that same amount. But if you increase the output, well, scratch the range because the range there's in the tech tree there's actually a range. Like one of them's like 50% more range on the steam hub. So the thing is that you don't worry about the range in the tech tree. Worry about the power output, um, because that will feed your steam hubs more power, which will then heat up the homes or anything that you need to heat with buildings, workplaces, stuff like that. More, but in that confined area. Like I said, steam hubs are fairly inexpensive enough where you can pretty much drop them everywhere. They use less coal than upgrading the range on your steam hub. I mean on your generator. Generator, like when you upgrade, I want to say it's like the range. It basically does like double and then triple the amount of coal being used. So I mean you're gonna go through pretty quickly, and so you want to try to limit that off the bat so you can stockpile that coal. Another thing I forgot to put as a bullet point here was early game, first couple of days before the first temperature drop. You guys can leave the main generator off during the day. I recommend keeping it on at night because people will bitch and complain and whatnot. And people start getting sick. But during the day, during work hours, turn off that generator. At this point, you don't have anything that really needs it, and the temperature only being -20 is sufficient enough for the people to survive. With the buildings, with the insulation that they have, the workplaces, you guys will be fine. I promise you. And it'll give you a chance to get an early stockpile of some coal for like when you get through the first or second drop of temperature. So keep that as a nice little tip. So here we got the tree for heating. So you would definitely want to unlock steam hubs early game, heaters early game, and I just grabbed this as a screenshot from someone's something I found on Google. So this isn't the actual path that I took, but I mean pretty much by the end of this scenario, I pretty much had just about everything what you call it researched here. But yeah, I mean, I recommend you start out with the Steam Hub and heater, then research the first drawing board, and definitely upgrade the power. That will help your Steam Hubs get more power, more heat to the homes that that's within range of the Steam Hubs. I didn't do Steam Hub range upgrade number 2 until it started getting like minus 40 out, maybe even minus 50. I was, as long as they're like above at chili or above chili for all of your buildings, you're good. And once you get the heaters, you can heat your workplaces. So just keep an eye on that. It's more you got to feel out. I don't know how else to explain, but you just got to feel that portion out. But I didn't do overdrive couplings until like the very end to get down here. But yeah, definitely the generator power upgrade. And then I went to two, and I actually left the range pretty much to last. I think I may have upgraded a range upgrade one. I might have did that at one point, but it wasn't until like mid game when we started getting pretty cold. And I mean, this was only on like the medium difficult, not the brutal or hard or whatever it is. Um, and same thing for the improved heaters. I did that a little bit later game. But yeah, so you'll once you play, first time around, I guarantee you probably won't make it through to the end. Um, but yeah, take a look at this. See what works for you guys. My playstyle might not be the same for everyone, and it's a matter of what works for you guys. Every scenario is gonna be slightly different. I don't think the weather or the temperature fluctuates the same for every single person. It may. I didn't really keep an eye on it, but this will bring us to tip number 6: scouts. Scouts are pretty much the most important thing in the entire game. They may like when I was playing it first. I was like, oh well, they're gonna go find some people and bring them back. I got some workers, which is pretty important. But I'm like that's all they're good for, just for missions and things like that. No, it's not. Um, with the technology tree, you can get a resource depot or an outpost depot. What the outpost depot does for you guys is allows you to create a route between our main base and another location that we found on the map that the scouts have found. And there's a couple different locations, and each one does something different. So you have one location that's going to be great for bringing in the trees and wood. You'll get delivery of wood every single day. Another one does coal every single day. You have another one that's food, and you have another one that's steam cores. And what I ended up doing was uh, the coal I had. I think it was. I want to say it was like 600 or 800 coal delivered every day and a half. But spoiler alert: there is a tech tree item that allows your scouts to move quicker. So keep that in mind. So I got the coal to go through every day and a half at first, and then like every day after that point, and I was swimming in coal at that point. It was I felt good about that. It was the last thing I really had to worry about. Um, so and then there was the steam hubs. Steam hubs pardon me, steam cores. You need those to build your automatons, which I'll talk to you in a little bit about. But that's where I had my other depot or my other scouts go to create an outpost depot or outpost, which transfers back to the main hub. So here's the thing too about outpost depots. For I believe on the main scenario, a new home, I believe it's called. You got to have yeah, it's one depot. You'll see it goes scales up the wall. That one depot can only handle one trade route, and so I think you get a limit of two. So that's why I chose coal and steam cores, and steam cores, like I said, for the automatons. So where to go? Um, Pretty much at first you'll see with the scouts, it's going to give you a route to go. You'll see that there's like a little yellow dot next to a couple of the sites and everything like that. You want to kind of balance out getting a team, and finding people because you're going to find that you run out of people pretty quick. And I'll touch on that a little bit afterwards. But so to the south, I felt there's finding groups of people and a couple resources, and then to like the northeast. That's where you got some more stuff, but that's the northeast is where the steam cores are. Um, and I will tell you that when you get to Tesla City, which is where the Steam cores are, be prepared. You may or may not lose that scout team. They basically get killed, trying to explore the Tesla City where the Steam cores are. So you may have to create another group, which means you lost 5 people and 40 extra wood. Um, with the exploration tree, we got here is so you got your beacon, which you want to get right off the bat. More scouts, definitely get more scouts. I know it's 5 more people and 40 extra wood, which early game is kind of tough to spare. But literally as soon as you can spare them, I mean, even if you gotta have the wood production down ever so slightly, or the steel ever so slightly, take somebody from each one, so you're not at 100% efficiency, but just spread out to create a group of more scouts. That doubles the amount of area you're going to cover, and you can find more stuff and get your scouts back to you quicker. You have one guy going this way, one guy going that way, and it works out really well. Um, so you can see that there's like lighter scout sleds, the outpost depot I was talking about. It's on the drafting machines, which is the layer 2. If you're doing 0 to on a 0 base numbering scheme here, um, definitely want to get the outpost depot pretty early on. But once you find a place to, like the coal pile or the steam cores, those scouts, they're dedicated to that place. So keep that in mind when you're planning, how you want to manage your scouts and exploration. Factory here, we'll talk about that in a little bit, because that's going to be another tip for you guys. All right, so early on, food is pretty easy, and it's definitely, I felt like I overlooked food a lot, because we didn't have a lot of people, and the amount of food that we're bringing in from these hunter houses, they they brought back enough food to manage. And you guys can use. I mean, I don't really touch in my tips here about the adaptation or the purpose um, trees, which are very important. But I feel like that they're kind of more or less self-explanatory. You guys can go through, and based on what you need, you can figure it out. I mean, I'll tell you right now, just child labor and the extended, which do the emergency shifts, which I didn't really use. I unlocked that one to get to the extended shifts, which didn't really hammer on discontent, but you guys will see. Play around with it, see what works for you. But yeah, I would definitely get deal with time. So all right. So you have the hunter's hut that it can use up to 15 people, and I believe initially off the bat it grabs 15 food a day. So the hunters go out at night, and they come back in the morning, and then you need a cookhouse. The cookhouse is what actually takes the food and converts it into rations. So with the tech tree, or with the adaptation tree, you guys can actually do soup rations. Once you guys get to a point, at some point you guys are gonna need soup rations. People are not gonna be happy about it, but you can cure that with the moonshine adaptation, and that lowers discontent while eating soup, which it basically cancels each other out, and you get save on food. So take a look into that. But yeah, you need a cookhouse. So here's the thing: is that with the cookhouse, you don't need to fully staff it. I think I'm going to touch on this a little bit later too, but like, you don't need to fully staff it. You take a look, see what you're bringing in, what you need to output, and that's about it. But like I said, I'm going to touch on that in a little bit also. Hothouse, I actually got away with not using a hothouse. Hothouse will basically grow food for you, and X amount of food per day and stuff like that. But you got to staff it and whatnot. So it is what it is. I'm not. I didn't do the hothouse. I felt like it wasn't worth it. I felt like the amount of hunters I took out and to bring back the food, was sufficient enough. So we'll take a look real quick at the tech tree for the food. I actually had to go and do a screenshot. I couldn't find a screenshot of this tree. So, all right. I mean, here I did unlock the hothouse early on, but this was after the fact. I found out that hothouses aren't what they cracked up to be. I mean, yes, it generates food guaranteed every day. I don't need as many people going out, yada yada yada. But so what I did find though is that unlock the hunter's gear, get the flying hunters, and the hunting tactics. I think it might be the hunting tactics that allowed for 5 less people per flying house or a hunter's house. To go out. So basically, you went from 15 to 10 people now. So for each one, you're saving 5 people. Those people can go and work on gathering resources for you, or extra scouts, things of that nature. The medical post upgrade, I did this time around, but I mean, I feel like I didn't exactly need it, but it's definitely good to get the medical post upgrade if you can afford it. It's worth it in the end because actually you have to do it because you need to get the infirmary. The infirmary allows you to help more people out. So that was that. I would definitely you guys have to. You guys gotta get the bunkhouse. I didn't do the cookhouse installation because all my cookhouses were around steam hubs. As I said before, using the steam hubs and pulling that power off of the main generator is key. So using the steam hubs, reduces you having to use like the cookhouse insulation. So I went from bunkhouse to house, and then I mean, if you guys, I would minimally get the bunkhouse, and then or upgrade your houses, the tents to bunkhouses, and then research houses and what is this one here? House redesign and then insulation. I would do house and then insulation, but redesign saves money. So go do house redesign because it will reduce the cost as long as you can hold it. I mean, if you have to upgrade a couple houses that are in weird areas, not exactly close to the steam hub, then do what you got to do. But I recommend doing a house and then going to the house redesign and then doing the insulation because that will help out in the end. The infirmary stuff I didn't really play much with. I felt like I was able to stay on top of it. I made sure I had enough people that were in the medical bays or medical posts and everything like that, and keeping things warm really helped out, keeping people out of the getting sick and staying out of the medical posts. There's also with the what is it, the tree for the Automatons, they can eventually, replace engineers in the medical post, but I'll touch on that in a little bit. But yeah, you can see here, so like you can pretty much save yourself from having to spend money on the industrial hothouse selection, and everything like that. But you do the flying hunters, do the flying hunters gear that will, this will increase the flying hunters will increase the amount of food they bring back. I think it gets up to like 30 or something like that. And if you get the flying hunters gear, it's like 40 or 45 food per night or something like that per house or for the flying hunter houses. So yeah, take this, play around with this, see how you guys deal with it. Let me know if what works for you guys, if any of the stuff helped out. Tip number 8, automatons. Automatons are the most OP thing in the game you honestly will ever use. They work 24 hours a day, but I'm skipping ahead, on the list here. They do require factories, so you gotta gate it. You get one automaton from the scouts when you go to the bridge, and um, which you'll see it's early. It's pretty much part of the main storyline, and so yeah, it requires a factory. Factory, I kind of did late game, and I really regretted doing that because knowing how much the factory could have helped me produce these automatons by getting these steam cores from Tesla City. It would have saved me a lot of people, and it would have been able to gather a crap ton more resources. So it is what it is. So yeah, so the automatons require the steam cores. Like I said, you can get those from Tesla City. If you create an outpost there, you get one per day. It might be a little bit more once you do some research with like sleds and stuff like that. But yeah, what's great about them, they run 24/7, 24 hours a day. So what's interesting is that at first I took a look and I saw what the maximum amount of workers, engineers, children, whatever, how much they were gathering, and it was more than what the automaton would do. But here's the thing: is that during the work, the people only working during work hours, so that's like 8 in the morning to 1800 at night, and so the thing is that the automatons run 24/7. So they basically make up for that difference in amount of their collection by being able to run 24/7. The thing is, too, with them, they do require like a steam hub and whatnot. So you may turn off once you get back down to negative 20 degrees Celsius. You may turn off your main generator because all the buildings don't need as much heat. But they need the steam hub or the generator to refuel. So keep that in mind, especially early game. And what's nice is that with the automatons, the buildings that they're in don't require to be heated. Not like with ones with people in it. They will literally work through absolutely freezing conditions and keep going. So I try to get as many automatons on buildings as I can. And there's through the what was it the where was it here? So yeah, so back here you'll see the factory. You could do streamlined automatons, which will actually increase their efficiency, integration. Let's see. Oh no, the integration boosts their efficiency. So they start at 60% normally. You can boost it by 10% with the first iteration here, up to 70%. Um, I think this is streamlined prosthesis, so they can actually make prosthetics for the people that are injured. Get their get amputated. But streamlined automations, I believe, will allow them to. I forget where. Oh no, it's no, it's you got to do the automated integration, and then they'll allow you to do like engineers. So you can actually place automatons on your workplaces or the workshops and have them research stuff for you. And they'll go all night long, which is great. I found myself not being able to make it in time based on how much I was able to gather, and I was learning along the way. But I realized how OP they are afterwards, and was able to get a little bit down this tree and whatnot. I opted to go for the faster outpost teams and lighter scout sleds, so they can travel faster. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you guys gotta play with it, see what works for you guys, and see what works for you. So like I said, the best things in the game, you need a factory, you need steam cores, go to Tesla City, have an outpost there, and have them ship back to the steam core every day. They run 24 hours a day, and they don't require heat. I mean, that's a win-win to me. So tip number 9 is managing people. I found this to be one of the hardest things in the game because as you get farther into the game, you have more and more buildings, and it's harder to place people around because they're out. You need engineers. Engineers are huge, and they really become like a lifeblood of the game to do a lot of stuff. You need the more workshops you have, the faster you research stuff, and what else? You can have them do things like the medical post. They're the only ones that can do the medical post. So they really become, you really become short on engineers pretty quickly until you get automatons to take their place or do stuff that where you can sacrifice, the engineers back to other buildings. So, um, for managing people is back when like what I said about the homes. It's really I can't stress enough. So upgrading from a tent to a bunkhouse is huge. Just the insulation upgrade requires you to use less power and from your generator, so you have time to do other stuff and gather coal and get a nice stockpile of it. So keep that in mind. I already said the automatons can replace engineers. You can have them uh, pretty much work at any single like gathering gathering posts, coal production, steel production, any of that stuff, um, and they'll do it. You can, one tip is that for I believe it's like the coal thumper where it pulls coal out of the ground and it stores it behind the building. You need gathering posts to go get it. But here's a tip for you guys too: have the gathering posts get it, and then I'll have an automaton going directly on the pile and grab that pile of coal too. You'll generate more coal that's stockpiled. Um, so the other thing too is fully staffing buildings versus minimally staffing buildings. What I found that like places like the public house, just things that aren't geared towards helping the people, generally speaking, you can minimally staff them. So like the public house, you're just serving booze for the most part, depending on which way you go down the tech tree and everything like that, or the not the tech tree, the adaptation tree. Um, Places like the medical post definitely want to fully staff because you are going to get sick, and keep an eye on that because they will creep up on you. It will come out of nowhere. Everyone just start getting sick, and they're in there. And then next thing you know, you get assigned the care house law and all this other stuff, and it gets tough really quickly. And when people get sick, they ain't working. So the things you want to keep as healthy as possible. So it's many employees, many workers, engineers working to keep these people, working. But places like the coal mines or stuff like that, you want fully staffed, either an automaton on it or fully staffed. Workers, engineers, children. Children are great. Definitely sign. It's pretty much they tell you, safe jobs for children and stuff like that. Just sign it, get the discontent out of the way, let the hope go down a little bit. It's give and take, it will come back up. So yeah, fully staffing, the important buildings, like the workshops. You need those fully staffed. Have to have them fully staffed. That's the only way you can be able to get through the research, quickly. And one thing I didn't do here, which we'll talk about on the next slide here. So resource and time, resource management. So you can see here, this is where um, I screwed up. You can see how pissed I was. I was drinking a little bit. I did a couple episodes in the night, and yeah, I was pissed because I forgot I left the overdrive on the generator. So I was like, damn it. So resource management. One thing to do with that is don't run out. Don't run out of stuff, and on the contrary, don't get full. If you're full, that's less things that the workers can put into storage. So build your resource depots. Make sure you have plenty of that. Keep an eye on it. If early game might be a little tough to get your resource depots, but try to get some in there, and allocate based on what you need. Food you're pretty much not going to need right away. For a resource depot, you won't need to store food. The two that you're going to need to store is coal and wood. Wood, I think, was more. I guess I was able to store more. I needed to store more wood than anything at first, and then came coal because I was running through coal pretty quickly, even with the steam hubs and all the stuff I had going on. And then later on, it became pretty easy, especially with the outpost, grabbing coal every day and bringing some back. And I actually got to the point where I was taking in too much and I couldn't keep up. I had to build resource depots and everything like that. So yeah. So the next thing here we got is pause when just about doing anything. If you're gonna go and build a road or place a building or check out stats on a building and place people, just pause. The little pause top left of the for you guys probably gonna show, yeah, up over there. It's a little bit backwards, with the video, but yeah, pause it. Yeah, it's gonna make you work. You're gonna play a little bit longer, which isn't a bad thing. I was looking for a good time in this game. I started playing when I went through the whole thing. I started playing at like 9:30 at night, and I didn't, which I screwed up again. I was pretty much very very like right there at the end. I could see the end in sight, and it was like 1:30 in the morning. So I mean, it's not like long. You could definitely knock this out in like 2 nights, and plus I was recording and stuff like that. So, oh no, I wasn't recording. I was just playing through. But yeah, just keep an eye on your time, manage it. See when the cold's coming up. Prepare. Make sure you have enough coal to see. If you're going down 2 levels, you're just gonna get freaking cold. Make sure you have enough coal to support that generator and your steam hubs. So you keep up with it. You can check the little tab that's on the. If you click on like the generator, the second tab that's up there will show you your intake versus actual use. And if it's red, it means you're using more than you're taking in. If it's green, you're doing good. You're bringing in more than you're using. So keep an eye on that. That's a little tip there too. And then be cautious with the overdrive. As you can see in my last video, that's where that really screwed the pooch for me. So yeah, the overdrive. At first, they give you a warning about it, and then the second time, they make you use a steam core in order to fix the generator. And I think you're like sacrificing a child or something like that, whatever it is. Um, and then lastly, it just goes. No warning. You got to keep an eye on it. If you do the tree correctly, and you output just the power, not the range, the power. Utilize the steam hubs. You should never have to use overdrive. I didn't use overdrive until the very very end, and I was very cautious with it, because I'd always forget about it. And anytime that I couldn't stay on the generator, screen, monitor the what you call it, the critical level, I would turn off the overdrive and fluctuate it. And the only time I'd pretty much use it would be overnight, not during work hours or anything like that. Because during work hours, nobody's in their homes. Everyone's out at the places of work, and that's about that. Another thing I will say is to create like little districts. Have a district, for housing. I think what I ended up doing initially was dividing a 360-degree area into two 180-degree areas. So one half would be for housing and keep it kind of close to the center ring. Keep right up and then build out. Second layer of homes and third. And then the other side, I would put businesses over there because businesses they don't really require as much heating. They have better insulation than they do initially the tents and even the bunkhouses. So keep that in mind for how you're laying things out. There are things like the cemetery or there's a couple of buildings. Also keep in mind like with the coal thumpers and all that stuff. If you're using automatons, they don't need to be heated, so you can keep those on the outside and not have to worry about heating them. So with that, you should be good. The last thing is plan ahead. You have usually ample time to see on the timeline that's on the top right, and to see when it's dropping. You can hover your mouse over and tell you temperature's dropping 2 levels by this time. Okay, usually you have multiple days to figure that out and be like, okay, what do I have right now? Okay, I'm low on coal. We build another coal thumper. Let's get some workers on that, and let's increase our input. And even if just like another gathering post, depending on which building you got, some of the coal stuff, can require keep 4 gathering posts busy. The other ones they produce less, but they don't require workers. So it's a matter of planning ahead and how many workers you have versus um, how much you need. So you got to balance it out. So yeah, that's about it. It's wow, a little bit longer than I wanted to. 45 minutes we're up to. But yeah, I mean, it's. I think these are pretty much the things that I notice the most in the game, where these things really help me out to really understand the game, uh, do better early on, mid game, and prepare for the end game. So resources are huge. Food becomes huge. Just keep an eye on that because the beginning you're pretty lenient. I mean, you pretty much require two, maybe I'd say about two hunters huts at first. Then if you can gate it in time, you don't need much more than that until much later when you start getting like 600 people that you need to manage. Um, but yeah, so that's really about it. Let me guys know if you guys like this and if you guys want me to do more in the future. I plan on doing another video going through, probably have like hour-long videos to make it go a little bit quicker of replaying that the first scenario, the a new home, and going through and showing you guys with these tips, um, how easy it is to really get through the first part of the game on just regular settings. The medium middle difficulty. At some point, I would like to try hard. I know with hard, that basically really hammers you on temperature early on, and it makes things really difficult. So it'd be interesting to try. So yeah, well, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment. Let me know if you want me to do more of these in the future. Games you want to see me play, things along the lines of that. I really look forward to reading the comments. I try to read. I don't really have many followers right now, but hopefully you guys leave something there and I'll be able to respond to you guys. All right, thanks for watching.